Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change. I'm here to guide you from frustration to flow in your life, bridging the practical and the woo, just for you. Let's go. Hey Change Gang, here we are in another wonderful week, and I want to speak today a little bit about thought, about our thoughts and how they play into the things that we do and how we feel and all that. So one of the things I want to talk about is called the three principles. The three principles, and this is all around thought, and you can go look, there's books around it, there's all kinds of information, and it took me a little bit to kind of get to this, but it does make sense, and hopefully this will make sense for you. So a couple of ways to look at the way that our thoughts work is if you think of your mind as the projector in a movie theater. So we're going to do a little movie analogy. And you think of your mind as the projector. The projector's just kind of the white light that beams out into space. It's what projects things out there, right? And it projects it onto the screen, which is the consciousness. All right, our consciousness. Our awareness. If it's not showing up there, if it's not showing up on the screen, we're not aware of it, right? And then the last part of that is the thought. And that is the movie. That is what's getting played out through that projector, the mind, onto our consciousness, right? The screen. And that is, in a real nutshell, the basics of thought, of the three principles, okay? That the problem is often not what you think it is, it's just what you think. It's the thought wrapped around what it is. And oftentimes the thought that we have leads to something else, to something else, to something else. And in truth, that original thought has nothing to back it up. Nothing, right? It's just there. And for some reason, that's what we think. Think about when you're in a room or when you're dealing with someone, a group of people or something, and you think, that guy, turned away from you. They don't like you. They didn't want to hear what you had to say. They just walked away without saying anything. So your mind is now telling you, oh, well, they just don't like you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They're not interested. They're moving in a whole nother direction. All these things come to your mind, right? And then you build this whole thing around it. Maybe you feel uncomfortable, you're upset, you're unhappy, they didn't want to have anything to do with you, they're so rude, all of this, and now you're in this room with these people and you're uncomfortable, and it keeps going back to, what did I say wrong? What was it that I said that person didn't like? What could I have said that made them walk away? And you come up with all of these things that are going in your mind. Now, if you run with that, you're going to be pretty uncomfortable for the time that you spend in that room, right? With this person who doesn't like you. Well, back the truck up a little bit. Back up and ask yourself, is that really true? How do you know that? How do you know that that person really doesn't like you? Well, because he turned and walked away. Yes, but does that say he's walked up to you and said he doesn't like you? Have they been rude to you? Has that person said to someone else that they don't like you? No, none of that, right? None of that has happened. Yet you have come to this conclusion. So one of the very first questions you always need to ask yourself when you're in that thought process is, how do you know that? right? How do you know that? Something else to think about? What else might be important in that situation, that statement that you made? What else might be important? Is it important that he walked away? Is it important that you were at a certain part in your conversation when that happened? Is it important that maybe you don't even know that person that well? What else is important in that situation? And maybe what have you not considered? What have you not thought about in that particular situation? Well, you haven't thought about the fact that maybe they were distracted in their own mind and something came up that made them go into their own mindset and move in another direction, thinking, oh my gosh, what about that? What am I going to do about that situation that I'm dealing with? And so they just weren't that engaged with the conversation and had to walk away to clear their own mind. It was nothing about what you were speaking about, right? Or maybe they had to go to the bathroom. Maybe they needed something to drink. What have you not considered about that thought that you're having, right? And what might actually be a little less important in the whole situation than you think, right? What part of that might be less important? That he was distracted, that they did walk away, that it was at a particular time in the conversation. What might not be quite as important? And on the flip side of that, what might be more important to that thought process? What might be more important? Maybe something that might be more important is that there were other people that were engaged in your conversation. There were more people that walked up during that time or right after, or at that same time. Maybe more people became engaged. Maybe that person made more room for another person to step in. What might be more important? And then lastly, and actually most important right here, okay? What if none of that was true? What if none of anything that you just said or created or put down, what if none of it was actually true? What if everything that you just thought or said or wrote was just something that you were thinking? What if that thought process just took you on a journey in a direction? Well, yeah, something to think about, right? A lot of times the thoughts that we have coming into our mind are not necessarily based in fact, in truth. They might be our truth in the moment, but that is even something to question. Is it? Is that thought my truth? Do I want that thought to stay in my mind? Is it helpful? Is it meaningful? Is it something that's going to take me on a journey to the next best place? Or is it hurting me, holding me back, bringing discomfort to me in some way? You decide which one it is. But our thoughts carry us throughout the day. And oftentimes we just need to acknowledge that we're having that thought and that yes, we maybe do need to move in a new direction. Just acknowledge it, let it go where it takes you, and then bring yourself back to that question. What if none of that is true? Then you can take yourself in another direction. What if instead there's something wonderful there for you? What if instead everything works out? What if instead there's a good part of this? Let your imagination and your thought process take you down that path and see where it leads, right? Because it's such a better place. There are facts in our thoughts, absolutely. Is some of that true? Is this part true? Yes, this part is true. This is what they told me. But what did I think about what they told me? Okay, what's true in that thought process? Is it true that it matters to me? Is it true that it doesn't? Is it true that I'm going to hold on to that and allow myself to feel bad about it? Or is it true that I can let that go and know that it's just a thought I'm having and I don't have to let it move into emotion, right? I can change my thought because you can. You absolutely can. Thought is wonderful that way. And I just wanted to remind you of that today. So I'm going to keep that short and sweet and let you process some of those questions that I put out there to you today. All right? Have a great one, and I'll meet you right here next week. I hope today's episode was interesting to you in some way and fun. If so, hey, find someone to share it with. Maybe they need to hear it too, or maybe they'll just enjoy it. If you'd like, go ahead and grab my tips on supercharging your success. It includes a free short meditation to do just that. You can find that at bit.ly/supercharge your success. Until next time, happy day.